Hey folks, so today we are looking at our last section on adjectives for this current unit, and then we can move on to something that maybe doesn't have to do with adjectives. Who knows? But let's take a look. This is our last discussion of agreement for a little while now. So yes, agreement. Our topics will be really similar today. So we're still talking adjectives, agreement, declensions. So far we've dealt with adjectives that use first declension endings when they describe feminine nouns, second declension endings when they describe masculine nouns. So gender has been an issue there, that's masculine and feminine. Case has been one of the things that we've looked at. We've seen that adjectives, their endings will change in order to match the case and number of the noun they describe. And yeah, the number too. So what's different is that today we are looking at third declension adjectives. So the previous set of adjectives, like I said before, will change the declension they use depending on the gender they describe. Third declension adjectives are almost identical when describing masculine and feminine nouns. So we're not going to see a whole lot of change for them outside of the nominative case. So here we've got a sentence, bubo est sapiens. Bubo is an owl, saying the owl is wise. And we're going to see lots of third declension adjectives with this s ending. So for the nominative singular, that is, that s, see that lots and lots of times for the third declension adjectives. Okay. Another ending that we see fairly often, let's take a look here, vir est celer, we're saying the man is fast. We're also going to see are quite often for third declension adjectives, particularly when they're describing masculine nouns. So vir est celer. We will see some variation, particularly with these adjectives that end in R when they describe masculine nouns in the third declension. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them, when they describe feminine nouns, like this one, the woman is fast. In addition to that R that's part of the stem, they've got an is added onto it, that is marking the nominative singular again. So still an S ending. And the way that we can tell whether an adjective will do this is by looking at its dictionary entry. If we look up this adjective, we'll see it listed as celer, celeris, celere. Just fast. And this is the dictionary's way of saying, okay, here's the masculine nominative singular. Here's the feminine nominative singular. And here's the neuter nominative singular. And we haven't really spent any time worrying about the neuter nouns so far. Not all third declension adjectives work this way. Another really common group of third declension adjectives are like, the word for lucky, Felix. So we get Felix, Felicis, and that's it. So there's our word for lucky. And what this is doing, it can be a little hard to work out, but because we only have two items listed here, we're being told that this is the genitive singular ending, and Felix is the masculine, feminine, and neuter nominative singular. So some of these third declension adjectives will have the same form for all genders in the nominative singular. And then, I don't know if I want to say it's the most common, but a lot of adjectives are the type fortis, forte. Again, just two entries given here. Fortis, why don't we say brave here, mean a few other things. And fortis is telling us that, okay, use this form for the masculine and feminine, nominative, singular. Use forte for the neuter, nominative, singular. So what we're seeing here is if there's a separate neuter form, it's usually marked by that E. If there is no separate neuter form, then we are given the genitive singular. And if for a third declension adjective we have different forms for each gender, then we'll get 3 different forms listed here. I don't know that you need to know all of that for this activity that's coming up, but it's just a little background on how, by looking at a dictionary, you can tell whether we'll have different masculine or feminine forms in the nominative singular. Okay. Right, in the plural for the masculine and feminine, you know, I think there might be some gals here and some guys. We're going to use the same ending for all of them. So since it's just they are fast, and if we wanted to say the men are fast or the women are fast, we would still just use querer es. We're just using this third declension nominative plural ending. Let's clear that off. Okay. So here, viro sedenti donum dat. All right, with our traditional translation, we'll say she gives a gift to the sitting man. Okay. Words like sitting in Latin are third declension adjectives. And here we see, just like for third declension nouns, our dative singular. It's dative singular again because it's describing viro, which is the indirect object. This is alumni. So no surprises there. And we'll see that when we use the plural for the adjective, we won't have surprises there either. So kibum avobus, let's go back to fast, calerbus dat. Here he gives food to birds. And here's our indirect object, the recipient of the giving. If we're describing the birds, we need to use a dative plural ending. And for the third declension, just like the word avobus, which is third declension, calerbus, the word for fast is third declension. So we're matching the gender, case, and number. And in this instance, it happens that our endings are the same for avobus and calerbus. Okay, let's take a look at, some more birds. Elephantum ingentum videmus. So we see an elephant. There's our direct object. So elephantum is in the accusative case. We're describing this elephant as huge. And to match, okay, there's direct object. To match the direct object, which is itself accusative, is accusative, singular, and masculine, we're going to use em, m, for ingentem, which is a third declension adjective. For the plural, videmus, that's still we see, and here we see elephants. Still a direct object, but instead of accusative singular, we now have accusative plural. Probably default to masculine when we're talking about a group of unknown gender in Latin. So our adjective needs to match that also. It needs to be accusative, plural, masculine, and within the third declension, es is how we do that. Now, just as a side note, we won't be using this in class, but a perfectly alternate accusative plural for third declension adjectives is along is for almost all of them. Okay. Yeah, so there's our accusative here. In loco viridi ambulat. She walks in a place, and here we're describing the place as green, in a green place. In loco is a prepositional phrase. In, when you're not moving towards something, takes the ablative case. So we've got loco is ablative, it's singular. This noun happens to be masculine. And you can see that this third declension adjective is using an I. So we're going to see I for a lot of third declension adjectives here. Totally regular third declension adjective ending for the ablative singular. It's a little frustrating that we get that in the dative singular too. So there can be some ambiguity there. Now I think you can tell that we have something else coming up here in animali maiori serent, probably talking about the birds. We're saying they are sitting on an animal maiore, bigger. So here we've got our prepositional phrase again in animali. Animal is sorry guys, is neuter. It is ablative, singular. It does just so happen that for third declension adjectives, whatever the gender is, the ablative is the same. So don't worry about that too much here, about that gender issue. But we do see that some adjectives, instead of having that long I, have a short E, which we've seen for third declension nouns. So long I for some adjectives, short E for other adjectives in the ablative singular. Now we have est cum amicis fidelibus. Maybe we're talking about this person here. So let's say she is with friends. And we'll describe these friends as loyal, fidelibus. And you can see here, we've got our prepositional phrase, cum amicis. So that is putting amicis into the ablative case. It's plural. Looks like it's masculine here, but it does not matter. All genders will do the same. And we see, furthermore, that we repeat this rule where the dative and the ablative plural have the same endings. Okay. I guess I should say one more thing. We did spend a little bit of time last time talking about the vocative when you're directly addressing somebody. Well, outside of some second declension nouns, every other word, just see the nominative. Vocatives are almost always the same as the nominative. So if she's going to say, hey, faithful friend, friend would be amica, because it's second declension. But the word faithful, its dictionary entry is fidelis, fidela. So separate neuter form, but same form for the masculine and feminine. Let's see, loyal. So she would say, amica fidelis quidagis. How are you doing? So fidelis matching the nominative singular form here. Okay. So let's go ahead and just take a look here. We've talked about adjectives a lot for a few weeks. We've talked a lot about agreement. And by now, it should be clear that agreement doesn't mean that the words have identical endings to each other, but it means the adjective will reflect the gender, case, and number of the noun within the declension it is constrained to. So declensions we've talked about, first, second, third. Gender, really just talked about masculine and feminine. I believe we'll be talking about the nouns with a neuter gender on their own coming up in a few weeks here. We saw the variation with all of the different cases. Now let's cross these guys out. And singular and plural, two grammatical numbers. And I think that's all we need to say about adjectives and agreement. So thank you all. Walete.